In 1930, Germany stood on the precipice of profound historical change. Political and social tensions were rapidly escalating, and the democratic system of the Weimar Republic was under immense strain. This was the rise of Hitler. Initially, it began with the banning of Nazi uniforms in 3 German states. This measure appeared to be an attempt to curb the political violence that had erupted in the streets between far-right and radical left-wing groups. However, a dangerous contradiction emerged. While Nazi uniforms were banned, other armed militias continued to operate with impunity. This disparity was widely interpreted as a double standard, and reinforced the perception that the system was incapable of applying justice equally. This created a political vacuum that the Nazis exploited to portray themselves as victims and bolster their anti-government rhetoric. In the background, a crippling economic crisis was gripping the country. Chancellor Heinrich Brüning's government attempted to address the financial collapse with a harsh austerity plan. The government raised contributions from workers, drastically reduced unemployment benefits, and imposed a blanket emergency tax on employees. These measures burdened the poor and middle classes, while large corporations and capitalists remained largely unaffected. This injustice prompted attacks on the government from communists, socialists, and even some of its traditional supporters. The political crisis deepened when the parties that had supported the government fractured within Parliament. The finance minister himself faced growing opposition from within his own party. With negotiations stalled, President Hindenburg began considering invoking Article 48 of the Constitution, which allows for rule by decree in emergency situations. This move was seen as a clear sign of the weakness of the democratic system, and that Germany was moving closer to authoritarianism. Despite this chaos, a fleeting moment of national pride emerged. The withdrawal of the last French troops from German soil, a bitter legacy of the Treaty of Versailles. The Catholic Democratic Party celebrated this moment as the liberation of Germany, but the Communists considered their country still to be under economic and political occupation, while the Nazis claimed that Germany is not free as long as the Jews control it. The political landscape was so fragmented that no national consensus could be built. Meanwhile, the German people experienced a rare moment of triumph when boxer Max Schmeling won the World Heavyweight Championship, becoming the first German to hold the title. But this sporting victory could not dispel the dark clouds gathering over the country. Then, in the 1929 elections in Saxony, the Nazi Party made significant gains, increasing its share of the vote from 1.4% to 5%, securing approximately 243,000 votes. The Communists gained an additional seat on the local council. The Nazis relied on extreme populist rhetoric that appealed to masses who had lost faith in the traditional parties, especially the Social Democrats. Despite the Social Democrats remaining the largest party with 34% of the vote, forming a government became extremely difficult. Centrist parties refused to cooperate with the Communists, despised the Nazis, and excluded the Social Democrats, making it virtually impossible to form a government in Saxony. Meanwhile, Germany experienced a wave of bans against the Nazi movement. On June 5th, the Bavarian Interior Minister announced a ban on political party uniforms, ostensibly to combat political violence between Nazis and Communists. However, the Nazis saw this law as a direct attack on them and considered it a step towards a Marxist dictatorship. Hitler responded by focusing his propaganda efforts in Bavaria and calling on his supporters to hold a large demonstration. In Prussia, the measures were even stricter, banning the wearing of Nazi uniforms in public places, while exempting other left-wing organizations. In Munich, a Nazi demonstration was banned due to the party's inflammatory rhetoric, which the Nazis considered an example of the failure of parliamentary democracy. By mid-June, restrictions had expanded to include brown shirts, swastikas, flags and ribbons, and 150 Nazis had been arrested in Berlin. On June 23rd, wearing Nazi clothing in Prussia became a crime punishable by a fine of 150 marks or 15 days in prison, a heavy penalty relative to the average German citizen's monthly income. Politically, the signs pointed to the continued decline of traditional parties and the rising popularity of Nazis and Communists, while the Social Democrats remained steadfast. Chancellor Brüning's government continued to face fierce internal opposition, threatening its stability. Despite these challenges, Germany experienced some symbolic victories, such as the withdrawal of French troops from German territory and the raising of the German flag, and German boxer Max Schmeling's victory to become world heavyweight champion. However, major questions remained. Would the government be able to curb the escalating political violence? Would the ban on Nazi clothing spread throughout Germany? Would Brüning be able to consolidate his power, or was Germany on the verge of a full-blown Hitlerian rise to power? Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.